everyone. We are now live. Well, we're actually not live. We are recording this. We guys are live here now. This is a recording for the Spirit Said magazine for July. And I am joined, I'm Karen Knight, the editor of Spirit Said. And we are discussing bullying today because it's a very current topic at the moment. And luckily, we are joined by two brilliant experienced people in the topic, because we have the lovely Louise, who is here from well, she works in a local college. She's a wellbeing and safeguarding advisor, and she has many years experience, and she's like very much on the ground with the kids. And now we have got Romy as well, who is a psychologist here, who has got all of the techniques to try to help us get rid of any anger and try to work through it all. Myself personally, I'm quite I don't like bullies. Anyone that knows me, I'm quite a strong character. I also used to work in student support, so I'm very aware of how bullying works and how it affects lives. So without too much more information, let me first come to maybe Romy. Sorry to chuck you on the spot there, but we're also going to be very guided by spirit here today, because as this is Spirit Said, so anything you feel you need to say, Louise, Romy, just go for it. I'm going to keep it nice and light and airy, and just with some messages of encouragement, because it is really horrible, you know, when you're being bullied. So I'm going to come to Romy now.
Hello, thank you very much, Karen. I'm a positive psychology coach and a wellbeing ambassador and an embodiment coach as well. Bullying, as you said, I mean, sometimes if we go to like, what is the definition of bullying? And part of the definition of bullying is if someone is like seeking harm or intimidating someone else, if they're aggressive, and it can be psychologically, it can be emotionally, physically, and mentally. And I think we've all at some point or another experienced bullying in some way. And also on the other side, maybe we have also become a bully in some way. Sometimes we can present with bullying behaviour and be quite unaware that we are actually bullying somebody. Sometimes we can experience what's called passive aggressive bullying, and we can also create that ourselves. And I think sometimes there's this looking underneath it, the psychological side of bullying is a lot to do with fear and insecurity, and not being able to express oneself. So I think sometimes looking at bullying is actually going deeper into taking away the surface side of bullying, which is extremely painful and toxic. And sometimes when you're starting to heal from it, is actually to go underneath and look at what it is that you are experiencing and feeling as the bully, and also as the person being bullied. And I think those two things need to be addressed, rather than just sometimes the onus is on the bully, like the person being bullied, and not necessarily looking at the mental health of the person that is actually the bully as well. So I think sometimes it's really important to address both of those sides, because to some extent both are victims of themselves in some way. And they're the type of things that I would like to sort of open up a conversation with, especially with like Louise, being within a college environment, when you have lots of young people that are they're in an environment where they're learning about themselves, they're struggling maybe with learning about their identity, sort of finding themselves within that space as well. You've got lots of people looking at different aspects of their own selves and relational to others. So you've got hormones kicking off as well. So
I've got them. I think I'm going through the menopause.
I think I've already gone through the menopause now.
So is it perimenopause? I'm like getting hot at night and everything. Sorry, back to the hormones. Sorry, don't talk to me about hormones. That's a trigger, darling. That's a trigger. That's the problem. And let's just get to the point. The point is the trigger. Trigger is, isn't it? That is.
Yeah.
you know, trigger is like the key word, like Spirit is saying, trigger is what, wow.
Yeah. And the thing is, that's where it comes down to people being aware of their emotions, being aware of themselves and how they're feeling inside their body. Part of doing sort of embodiment is actually knowing about yourself and how you feel within your body, being aware of those emotions that are coming up, rather than sometimes having an emotion that comes up, suppressing it and reacting rather than responding. Yeah, and sometimes when we look at bullying, a lot of it is a reaction and not a response. And then when you look at serial bullying, you can sometimes look at it being very manipulative, whereby someone is then planning what they are going to do. So that then takes it a step further from reacting to then actually planning. And if you are being bullied, sometimes you're in a space where you are reacting to that emotion rather than responding. So you know, we can find moments where we can, it's having that awareness when someone is bullying you, and how are they bullying you? Do you have anyone around you that is witnessing that bullying as well? Because that's quite important for you yourself, because it really impacts on your self-esteem and your confidence. But also how you manage that bullying, and then what you do from that moment forward. I mean, I'd like to sort of ask Louise, for instance, how she finds, you know, within college, I mean, obviously at the moment it's been different because people have been, you know, sort of there's been lockdown, but at the same time there may have actually been an upsurge in bullying, on cyberbullying, for instance, where you just you don't have you can't switch off, you know, whereas
that's exactly what I was going to say. There has been quite a big increase in online harassment, cyberbullying. We've just recently, I think it was the 18th, we had the National Stop Cyberbullying Day. So we did a lot of work within our college, which was my event this year, one of my events this year. But the difference with cyberbullying is there's no getting away from it, because all of our young people have devices, they have mobile phones, they have laptops, they have iPads, and it follows them around. So whereas the physical old school bullying is, I'll get you at school, or, you know, when you're walking home from school, this literally follows them from the moment they wake up, they open up the messages and they see all of these negative comments coming through, and that then sets them up for the day on a very negative spiral. And yeah, it's been very prevalent that it's increased during lockdown, and since coming back out of lockdown as well, there's been a lot more kind of tension between young people. I think because there's been a lot of worry around the whole situation, and people not keeping in contact with each other like they expected. Through one reason or another, there has been a lot of fractured friendships, relationships because of that. And I think it's made it really difficult for young people to kind of figure it out. And I think, as you touched on before, it's very easy to become a bystander of bullying, and not realise that you are a bystander. But you're actually part of it. You're part of the problem, you're part of the issue, and you're very much as responsible as the person that's actually throwing those insults out there. And, you know, I just don't think, I think a lot of things get wrapped up in, oh, it's just banter, which is another thing that we've touched on quite heavily. You know, the difference between bullying and banter. A lot of young people still think, you know, well, that's just banter. If it's a one-off, I think it can be passed as banter, but when it becomes a consistent negative kind of comments thrown at them, fake profiles, making allegations about them online, you know, all of that sort of thing, it does then go into the bullying and online harassment category. And I don't think they realise that it is actually a crime. And beside it being a crime, it's increasing the suicide risk massively for young people.
I'd just like to interject something here, probably absolutely useless to you guys, but I know we said we weren't going to talk about personal issues and things like this, but I'm just minded because Spirit are asking me to say this, that even the most put together people can be bullied. It's not what you think. And I'm going to just share that actually. I'm just going to throw out there that about 6 weeks ago, I put an advert out saying anybody that's interested in readings on mediumship, please like my page. Now, I got a tyrant of abuse saying you should be ashamed of yourself. You're taking advantage of people. You're disgusting. Anybody that knows me and knows what I do, I give, well, you know, I shouldn't be justifying myself, which I know is what Romy's going to be saying next. But I'm just going to say that even if you think that, oh, I wish I was like that, she's all right, there's always some sort of bullying that someone's got to deal with. And I don't think you ever get away from not being bullied. I think there's always someone that's got some, dare I say it, I shouldn't say it, but bad intention towards what you're doing or what you are. And spiritually, I think you need to be aware of intentions and what you're thinking, because sometimes that can affect people's energy. And I just thought, I don't know if that helps anyone, but yeah, I mean, and that did make me feel like, did it make me feel like giving up? No, kind of it, a lot of it made me feel like saying bollocks. Do you know what I mean? I'm just going to say that, it's my show, I can say bollocks. So I'm going to say bollocks, no. But yeah, did it affect me? Yeah, deep down it did affect me, because I thought, I'm an empath and I can feel all this anger. And that's the other thing, if you are an empath as well, bullying is going to affect you a lot higher. Even if it's your daughter being bullied, you're going to feel it more, and you need to be aware of this. I'm sure Romy will cover this as well, because it doesn't just affect that person that's being bullied, you know, it affects the whole family and their friends. I'm also going to say, actually, while I'm holding the stick, that it's quite important, I feel, from what I've learned, to step back and watch what's going on. And then I feel that you should say, personally, it's very difficult, because I'm just going to say what I think. I used to stand up for everybody, didn't care what happened, didn't care if then I became the person that was being bullied. But that's different, because that's me. And if I decide that I'm going to get bullied, then I'll get bullied. But not everyone can cope with that. And if you're going to give this advice, you need to be aware that, can that person cope with standing up and being that strong? Because generally that backlash will come back on the person. So I'm going to give you a quick example of she said, I said. So there's a group of girls and one of them says, I don't like so-and-so's haircut. So then one of the girls says to the girl, oh, that group says, I don't like your haircut. Okay. So the girl tells the girl. So then the girl that's got the bad haircut says, how dare you say this to me? And then there becomes all this stress about a haircut, and they're all bullying and then saying they're going to get people to beat them up and things like this, when really where it should have stopped was that middle person who should never have said anything and should have said to that group, don't you think you should have other things to think about than what her haircut looks like, and isn't that mean? And she should not have then said to the other person, yeah, like they think you've got a bad haircut. She should have just said to those people directly, I don't think that's very nice. Let's love and light, guys. So I'm just going to say that, because I think sometimes you need to be blunt about what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Trouble is, if you're one of these strong people that's trying to stand up for people, it doesn't always, you can't change people sometimes. You can try. I've tried my whole life. You can, but you're the one that ends up in the pain. You're the one that ends up with the stress. So I'm just going to say, sit on the fence and be true to love and light. But when I say sit on the fence, don't be a bystander. Do not abide by it. Say you don't agree with it, but in a kind way. That's my advice. You know, I worked in a college. That's on the ground with the kids. That's what I would say. Generally, me, no, that's not going to be me. I'm going to say, how dare you speak about my friend like that? How rude are you? But that's me. But not everyone can take that. But then, yeah, I'll be crying for months afterwards. Is it worth it? Probably not. So I'll come to you, Romy, now.
I think one of the things that you know what you were saying was very was very true about, you know, I think when you're talking about the person in between, you know, so let's say you've got the two groups and you've got somebody making a comment about something, then someone else sharing that comment that maybe wasn't theirs to share in the first place, sharing a comment. One of the things that underlines all of that is our need for connection with each other. And actually, the darker element of that need for connection can sometimes be bullying, because we need to connect with others. Sometimes we don't know how to connect with others, so we try connecting with them in a dysfunctional way, which can then become gossip, which then can lead to bullying. And it's like one of the things that I've always looked at from when I was much younger is this need for all of us to connect in some way. I'm on the autistic spectrum. My daughter's autistic as well. My father's autistic. And people have this premise that autistic people, they don't like connecting, and that they're antisocial. And yeah, I will use your turn of phrase, Karen, and say that's bollocks. You know, that is bollocks. People just, they don't connect in the same way as other people connect, but they're still connecting. They might connect with Pokemon. They might connect with a computer. They might connect with their dog. They might connect with a horse. They might connect with technology, cars, railway, you know, sort of like trains. They might connect with one person, yeah, but they are connecting, you know, and everyone wants to love and be loved. I think primarily that's what we all want to do, you know. Again, in psychology there are never any definites. That's what they tell you at university, you know, never say a definite of anything. Always sit on the fence about everything. I think that's academia actually. But there, to me, I do feel that it underscores humanity, is that need to love and be loved. And I do think that wars and everything else that come out of that, and bullying and intimidation and passive aggressive behavior, all of that actually comes out of a real skewered, dysfunctional way of trying to connect to others. And that sort of just sometimes having that in mind can help to alleviate that responsibility that sometimes when you're bullied, you sometimes take, well, a lot of times you take that responsibility onto yourself as if you have done something wrong, and that's why you are being bullied in some way. You know, it's like, why are these things happening to me? What is it that I've done? What is it that I need to change? You know, so and that can then, that really impacts on the self-esteem, especially with younger people as well. And it's not just young people, it's older people as well, and it's throughout life, and it's in all different domains, because we're not just talking about college, like school, college, we're talking about relationships. We're also talking about familial relationships. So within the family, you may be bullied by a parent or a sibling. You may actually bully a parent. I mean, I've domestic abuse, for instance, I do training, or I did do training with sort of partly with Women's Aid, and that looks at domestic abuse, and what that entails. And sometimes within domestic abuse, you also have not just between partners, but you have it between family members. You might actually have the teenage daughter or son actually bullying the parents, you know, and not many people talk about that, but that is quite prevalent. And I think during this lockdown period, where we've all been, you know, in our homes together, and there's been a lot more tension and stress, and disconnect, that there may have actually been an increase in, well, there has definitely been an increase in domestic abuse. You know, that's been that's out there, that's been catalogued, that's been reported on. There's been a very large increase in domestic abuse, but it's not just between partners, it's actually between siblings as well, and within the family home. So I think sometimes, and that again can come down to this inability to connect and communicate our needs in a way that is healthy towards other people. Yeah, so I mean, I think, and we can only work with ourselves first. You know, as you said, Karen, about changing the world and trying to change others, and you can't change other people, and you can't change the world. You can change yourself, and in doing so, you do change the world, and you change your relationships with other people, you change your connections with other people, you know. So I think, like today, from this sort of, you know, just now talking about bullying, I think it's really important to feel what it is that somebody is anxious about, worried about, what it is in themselves that they have stress about. And writing is really cathartic. You know, if you are being bullied yourself, how does that make you feel? How are they bullying you? In what ways are they bullying you? What can you do to alleviate that situation? As in, you know, maybe not be in that situation. Maybe talk to that person directly if you can, or with somebody else present. Find somebody that can support you emotionally. So they're just some of those things. If you yourself are aware that you are in some way bullying someone else, again, I would say, sit back and reflect on what it is that you need that you're not getting, that you feel a need to bully someone else. You know, and that takes a huge amount of courage, for someone to realize what they are doing is impacting negatively on someone else, and to address that themselves, because linked in that is shame. And that shame is one of the most, sometimes it can be one of the darkest emotions that pull us down. When we are ashamed, we don't like to admit it. We don't like to address it, because psychologically, shame enables you to be put out. Let's say we're cave people. It enables you to be put out of your cave. You're isolated, you're abandoned. And if you're abandoned, isolated, and rejected, that's a sure sign that you're not going to survive. Yeah, so we're hardwired not to show our shame in front of other people. We don't want to be that vulnerable. We don't want to show our faults to other people, because then we'll be rejected. So if you are the person that is the bully, there will be a great deal of shame linked to that. And it takes courage to look at that shame and to actually start to allow it to come up and say, what is it that I really truly want from this person? And sometimes we bully other people because we actually really admire something about them that we don't have in ourselves. And it's that jealousy and insecurity and not knowing how to get that. And I would actually look at someone and say, those negative emotions that you are feeling, well done, they're brilliant. You know, have those negative emotions, because your negative emotions are what highlight you towards what it is that you want to learn more of how to actually overcome. You know, those negative emotions are your learning curves, they're your stepping stones. You know, they're your golden opportunities for change. You know, so that's what I would say to the bullies. But to those that are being bullied, you know, I would actually start to talk about what it is that they love about themselves, what it is that they love doing, the people that nourish them, you know, link with them more, connect with them more, so that you're actually building up your own confidence and self-esteem, your support. And if you don't have that support in place, or you're not aware of it, then I think it would be really good. I'll like look at some sort of what's the word, links that people can then hook into. So I think there's bullying.co.uk is one of them. There's the Samaritans, but if we can put some links in as well that people can go to, so that they can maybe get that support, that extra support and help that they may need if it's not available within their own family unit or support network. But focusing on the things that you as a person really enjoy doing, your own strengths, and talking to family members and friends about your own strengths as well, can really start to boost you, sort of boost your confidence again. Because it can be, it's as you said, Louise, when you said about the repetitiveness of it, you said if it's just one comment every now and then, it could be classed as banter, but it is that insidious repetitiveness that then causes people to, what happens is we then start to own what's being said about us. I remember years ago, I was somebody always used to say to me, oh, you're always clumsy, you're so clumsy, you can never do anything right. And after a while, and then they'd laugh about certain things I did, and at the beginning it became a joke, but after a while it became a part of my identity, was that I was clumsy, I didn't have any coordination. Then what happens is you start to own that identity, create that identity, and believe that that's who you are. And that actually isn't who you are. I just may drop a plate or two. Yeah, maybe I don't even like that plate, that's why I've dropped it. But there are so many, don't own the identity that someone is pushing onto you. I think that's so important for our young people now, is when they are creating and learning about themselves and then morphing into these beautiful people that they are, and that is with all their light and dark, everything is beautiful, and what happens is other people project onto them identity through, sometimes not meaning to, sometimes they don't mean to do it, it's unintentional, and other times it's intentional. And unfortunately, when it's repetitive, we own what they are saying about us, and that becomes a part of who we believe ourselves to be. And when that's negative, that's when we start to spiral down, because all of a sudden, you can imagine, we've just put an armor around us and it's really heavy, and we've got nowhere to go with that, and it just drags us down. And I think just people being aware of that, if someone says something to you, is actually having that ability to act, even if you're not strong enough to say, no, that isn't who I am, because that can be quite hard and challenging to do. But to actually inside go, no, I'm not owning that. Just saying that word, I'm not owning that, and then just walking away makes a huge difference. And also embodying that. Sometimes one of the things that I'm learning at the moment in like embodiment training is something called embodied yoga practices, and they're physical poses that you do like by yourself. So it can be in your room, it doesn't have to be in front of anybody at all, so no one even knows you're doing it. But they're physical poses that you put your body into, that as you put your body into, your body starts to feel that emotion. You close in and do what your body wants to do, and you're releasing that emotion. So for instance, there's a pose called no, and that is very, you stand with your legs sort of astride. So if it's hip width apart, you put one hand in front of your heart and it's sort of out like that, and the other hand is sort of in a fist clenched like this, just by the side of you, really relaxed. But you stand there in a stance and you say no, and you're actually saying it. And if you do that every morning before you like, let's say, go to work, or you go to school, or you go to college, what you're doing is you're breathing into that pose. It's a very strong pose, very direct pose. And what you're doing is you're saying no. And then in your head, you're thinking, what is it that I'm saying no to? And sometimes we don't have a strong no. And it's not just, on occasion, we think that it's women that don't have a strong no. It's also young men that don't have a strong no. you know, and transgender, because at the end of the day, it's everybody, you know. We all need to engender no and yes. They're two really important things. It's to do with your boundaries, to do with your responsibility, to do with what you're going to take on board, what you're going to accept as identity, and that will help in sort of putting that boundary in place for bullying, mentally, physically, emotionally, and psychologically. So what are your thoughts on that, both of you?
Should we come to Lou? So
I think for people like us that are a lot stronger, a lot of that can come not easily, but can be more easily integrated into our lives, and you know, we can put boundaries up quite easily. I think sometimes we need to look deeper at a situation, which obviously every case that comes before you has to be analysed as a unique person. You know, they might not have that family at home, the support network that we would like them to have. They might not have had the resilience built up in them over their childhood years. They might have had some adverse childhood experiences that have, you know, left them very traumatized and easily triggered. You know, so a lot of the time the bullying, if we can combat the actual bullying action, we then have to do a lot of work with the person afterwards to build up their self-esteem, their confidence, and make them realize that this wasn't their fault. Because a lot of the time they take it on themselves that it's something that they've done wrong, or that they've done that has caused these people to bully them. And 99% of the time it's not, it's actually something going on with the other person, or like you say, they may be jealous of something that that person has that they don't have, or something that they've achieved, you know, and it can come down to something as simple as that. But there is a strong lack of resilience with some of our young people, and I think that can go into vulnerable adults and, you know, people with protected characteristics and stuff like that, because they are obviously a very high risk category for bullying and stuff like this. You know, we need to be aware of those people that are at a higher risk of bullying. So whether it be the LGBT community, someone with SEND needs, you know, all those sorts of things, and a different race, a different religion, they are all at risk of bullying. And, you know, that can go into cyberbullying, street harassment, all of these sorts of things that all kind of fall under that umbrella of bullying. But I think it's not just a one bag fits all. There is a lot of behind the scenes work that has to go on with these people. We have to look at their individual circumstances. We have to combat the bullying. So if it's online, we can give stuff, you know, guidance and information about how they report these things, how they keep themselves safe, how they don't put too much information, personal information on profiles or dating websites, and, you know, all these sorts of things where we can open ourselves up to people finding stuff out about us that we didn't mean for them to know. And I just think there's a whole world of work that needs to be done. But if more things like this took place, more schools and more colleges got more involved with it, and, you know, I think a lot of schools involve it in their tutorials now, as well as colleges. But, you know, not forgetting that it does happen as adults. You know, someone got a promotion over you, you're going to give them a few jibes at the beginning, but actually after a while it can turn into bullying for that person. And I think it's just acknowledging your own actions, that if someone is not enjoying what you're saying to them or what you're doing, then that's on you. This is you need to take account of your actions and your words. And have, like you said earlier, reflect on yourself, because it's got to stop. But the more people that stand up and say no, the easier it will be for other people to do that. So it's a work in progress, I think, but it's not something that isn't being combated.
Amazing. So I think everyone watching, it's basically the message is just recognizing bullying, checking yourself, checking others, supporting others. trying to be mindful of everyone's views, also being always wrong, always right. We need to look at that as well. I know it's hard for me because I'm usually right, but then that's because spirit tell me. But I need to look at that. You know, Dave's going to say, God, she's always right. She's really getting on my nerves. He's always wrong. I can't help that. But is that bullying? Maybe. I need to look at that, you know. So, yeah, I think we all need to check ourselves. I think that we need to make sure if we are the middle person, then we try to not to facilitate any bullying going forward, you know, a bit like what we were talking about. So it's giving an opportunity to not give any airtime to bullies. I think that is when they have attention is when they thrive. So, you know, we need to then divert the attention to, wow, I really like your hair. You know, I feel that it's like a bit like children, maybe. Romy, what would you say to that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I seem to have crashed.
I was literally, just as you said that, I was thinking of children.
Oh, sorry, could you repeat that? I just lost you a little bit there. Sorry, just
lost her.
Yeah. Maybe while she comes back, Louise, what do you think about that?
I think it's true. I think it is a very childlike mentality.
So
It can be.
one of the things I thought was what.
Oh.
Right.
We seem to have lost Romy for a minute. Sorry, Louise, you were saying?
Yeah, I think it can be just so easily fallen into by accident. You know, I think it starts off as a joke or a bit of banter, as we've said many times, and we don't actually realise that the person is no longer enjoying it or no longer taking it the way it was initially intended. And it is very childlike. It is very playground activity. But, you know, I think we can all say we've been guilty of it at some point. Throughout our lives, and like you say, it's just about reflecting, taking responsibility, looking out for each other, and making sure that we work together to try and stop this from happening to the best of our ability, because it can have some very extreme negative effects on people.
Definitely. Thank you, Louise. Yeah, I think I'm hoping Romy is going to join us before we finish up, but we are sort of coming to the end, the last couple of minutes of our session here. I want to thank Louise for joining us. I'm pretty sure that she does I know she does an absolutely fantastic job in the college. I mean, I know because I used to work with her and she's awesome. Because we both used to be awesome, didn't we?
Definitely. Dream team.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just it's just about sort of highlighting our own actions, and I'm just going to say to anyone that is watching this, just remember there's no light without dark. So that's quite an important thing to remember. You can't shine a light if there's no darkness, you can't see the light. So just come back to love and light, and obviously this is all men in the best possible taste, and I hope that everyone understands. Oh, we have Romy back. We just
hello.
Hi, good stuff. I was just saying, and I want to thank Romy as well for joining us, who's obviously psychologist and obviously writes for Spirit Said as well, with her poems and some thought-provoking materials here. Thank you, Romy, for joining us and giving us some of your insight. I was just saying before we lost you that there is obviously no light without darkness. So I guess we have to embrace the darkness, otherwise we have no light to shine. And, you know, if you are affected by anything that's we've spoken about today, then please do reach out to those people that can help you. We will put some links as well, and there will be another recorded session as well with different people with different views, but I'm absolutely delighted to have these guys, these professionals with me today. You know, we try to have a nice professional session, and there I go saying bollocks, which is just brilliant, isn't it? But you know, happy days. You can't have light without dark, right? So thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to stop recording now. So bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Bye.